A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another RPG review. I am continuing on with my nostalgia kick of Dungeons & Dragons, so cheers. Now, the last book I read and reviewed on this channel was Hall of Heroes, which went through kind of all of the heroic characters from the novels and whatnot from early Dungeons & Dragons, Forgotten Realms. Fantastic source book if you want to bring heroes from the novels that you read back in the day into campaigns and whatnot. Today, I am going the opposite route. I am looking at the Villains Lorebook for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition by Dale Donovan. This book basically looks at villains from all of the prominent Dungeons & Dragons novels that you might have read if you grew up in the 90s, or you might be now exploring if you're interested in the history and lore of Dungeons & Dragons. Now, straight off the bat, this is an absolutely fantastic source book, and I had a lot of fun reading this. It is incredibly comprehensive, and it's basically split into 3 sections. You have the section that deals with the characters, then some new monsters, and then finally magic items and spells. This is one of my favorite source books that I have read. I never actually owned this one back in the day. Really wish I had, because when I was running 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons in high school, I would have loved to have thrown some of these characters in there. So what we're going to do is go through it. I'm going to kind of show you what it entails and whether or not you would like to purchase it. I actually got this as a print on demand from Drive-Thru RPG, an absolutely fantastic website. And the quality is absolutely top-notch. It is almost as if it's the original first printing of this book. So without further ado, let's get right into the next episode of Let's Look at a Fucking RPG, people. We don't really have a opening title song for this, but there is one in the works. So, you know, just hold your horses there a bit, but let's just get straight to the table. Okay, so this is the Forgotten Realms Villains Lorebook. So we're looking at the villains from the Forgotten Realms novels that had kind of been released at the time. And this is kind of a source book for dungeon masters who want to incorporate those villains into their own Forgotten Realms campaigns for 2nd edition. Fantastic cover. That maybe is a Jeff Easley cover. Let's find out who did the cover art. No, it's a Todd Lockwood. Okay. So we have our table of contents here. Introduction, how to use the book, and how the book is organized. Then we have our redone THAC0 chart. Back in 2nd edition, THAC0 stood for to hit armor class of 0, and extended spell lists. And then we move straight into the characters. So a brief rundown, you get the name, Alabaster Bonadus, human male, 12th level wizard. Then we have their armor class, their movement, hit points, THAC0, number of attacks, alignment, and their statistics: strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Their spell list, their weapon proficiencies, non-weapon proficiencies, equipment, magical items, combat tactics, any allies or companions they have, foes and enemies. And then we go to their history, motivation, goals, and campaign use. But the best part is the sources. Where do these characters come from? This character comes from the R.A. Salvatore novels Canticle, In Sylvan Shadows, Night Masks, and The Fallen Fortress. So he is the hero Cadley's father in the novels. Then we have Alzagun the Trader, and we see here he's from the Forgotten Realms Adventures box set and the Spellbound box set. Artemis Entreri, if you're familiar with R.A. Salvatore, you'll know he is the assassin that is kind of like the foil to Drizzt Do'Urden. Kasana from Azure Bonds. Lord Cutter of Erebor. Ravandus from Crypt of the Shadow King, one of the novels in the Harper series. Cinder from Black Wizards, a novel I have read and reviewed on the channel. Deirdre Kendrick from the Druid's Home trilogy, a trilogy I have read and reviewed on the channel. Dendabar the Mottled from the original Crystal Shard, Streams of Silver. Eliath the Serpent Krolnaba from another Harper's novel, Elf Shadow. Flattery Wervenspur from the Finderstone trilogy. Now, here's a name I don't even know how to pronounce. Fazal Shembril. Very famous from the Avatar trilogy, which I am reading and currently in the process of reviewing. Ghost, again, from the Night Masks, Fallen Fortress. Halasta Blackcloak, famously the creator of Undermountain, for those of you that are familiar with that. Baron Fanival Hardesty from War in Tethir, a book that I read a long time ago but have kind of forgotten. Hobarth from the original Moonshade trilogy. Jandar Sunstar, very, very interesting one because the first time I've encountered this character was in the very first Ravenloft novel, Vampire of the Mists. He is an elven vampire who gets sucked into Ravenloft. A really fantastic book. Jarlaxle, again from the R.A. Salvatore Drizzt Do'Urden novels. Cavern Ebenhand, really interesting. This is from a Harper novel called The Ring of Winter, which is, well, it's a fantastic book, do not get me wrong, but it also kind of has ties to the 5th edition Tomb of Annihilation campaign, which I thought was cool. Kirikan Rufo, who is from the Cleric Quintet series of novels by R.A. Salvatore. Kymel Nimmerson, a lesser character in the novel Elf Shadow, book 2 in the Harper series. Malagor, Zolkir of Alteration, from the novel Red Magic, book 3 in the Harper series. Now, the Harpers is a series of standalone novels, but I think it ran for 16 books. One of the best Forgotten Realms series I have ever read. And I had the entire collection back in the day. At the moment, I've got a few of them on Kindle, but that's about it. It's really hard to get your hands on them. King Manferric III. This is from the novel King Pinch, which I actually have never read. Manshoon, one of the most famous Zentarum characters ever. You will hear more about him through coming reviews. He actually was in the novel Spellfire, but he does play a part in a lot of other Forgotten Realms novels because he's just such a fascinating character. The Mouth of Moanda from Song of the Saurials. This is the paladin Dragonbait's love, who is turned into a pawn of Moanda, and Dragonbait ultimately ends up killing her. Lord Orgarth of Zental Keep. He appears in the Ruins of Zental Keep box set, which is actually a book that I ordered from Drive-Thru RPG, and I'm in the process of reading it right now so I can review it for all of you little Plaguelandians out there. Semimon, again, one of the Zentala who features prominently in a lot of novels. So is Tam Zolkir of Necromancy. Yeah, there's a whole trilogy of books just based around Zastam taking over the country of Thay, where the Red Wizards hold sway. I'm not going to go into historical details about the Red Wizards and whatnot, but he is a lich who tries to turn the entire country of Thay into undead. If you've seen the film Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, there is a Red Wizard of Thay as like the main villain of that film, so you'll get an idea. The Faceless, Victor Dostar from Masquerade and Night Masks. These are books that kind of involve the characters from the Finder Stone trilogy. They are part of the Harper series, I believe. And Zri Praxis from Curse of the Azure, or Azure Bonds. Curse of the Azure Bonds was the name of the adventure module and the video game, but Azure Bonds is the title of the book. So that ends all of the characters. Now we move into the new monsters. You can see second edition monster stats here. So we have the Asabis, climate, terrain, frequency, how prominent are they? What is that? Organization, activity cycle, diet, intelligence, treasure, alignment, number appearing, so how many kind of appear at one time, armor class, movement, hit dice, Thaco, number of attacks, damage per attack, special attacks, special defense, magic resistance, size, morale, and XP value. This was the second edition stat block for all of the monsters that you would encounter and that you would find in the monster manuals and the monstrous compendiums and whatnot. And then you have a description of them, how they act in combat, habitat society, ecology, and a small history of them and any other special information. So we have these. We have the Balhir. It also tells you where they come from. So the Asabis were in the novel The Parched Sea. And you can also find them in the source book Anarok. The Parched Sea was book one of the Harper's series of books. Really fantastic. I remember reading it one summer. The tennis was on television. We were on vacation. And I was sitting in the back room of our house and I was reading The Parched Sea. And I got a nosebleed. And the nosebleed was so bad and it wouldn't stop that my father actually drove me up to a clinic to see what was going on. Like every time I took the towel away from my face, the blood would just start pouring out again. Wasn't anything serious, but I just remember I connect the Parched Sea to the tennis to that nosebleed, which is kind of hilarious. The Balhir from Spellfire. The Chosen One. Darkened Beasts from Red Magic. I remember getting the Forgotten Realms monster compendium. Back in the day, you didn't have books. It was loose leaf folder pages, and you had to kind of put them in this loose leaf folder. And I remember the Darkened Beast. Fantastic. The Dread Warrior. Urtu, the main kind of Tanari demon from the Drizzt Do'Urden novels. Crystal Shard was his first appearance. Ice Spire Ogres. Kalmari. Kazgoroth from Dark Walker on Moonshade. The Blood Riders, again, from Dark Walker on Moonshade. This venerable red dragon, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce, from the novel Azure Bonds. Faerem. These creatures are actually the enemies of beholders. Beholders being the spherical dudes with the eye tentacles that have magic powers. Really one of the staple creatures of Dungeons and Dragons. But the Faerem are their mortal enemies. And the Terramen, basically pterodactyl men from the jungle village of the jungle country of Cholt, where Ring of Winter is set. Then we have, in the middle of this book, these fantastic color illustrations. I recognize this as being from Dark Sun. This might be one of the Seven Sisters. This is the cover of the Night Parade. The Night Parade features the main character of Mermeen Lal, who is the Harper leader of the city of Arabelle, and actually plays a part somewhat in the not the Finder's Stone trilogy, the Avatar trilogy, which I'm about to review book 1 of. The cover of Darkwell, the very first Forgotten Realms Dungeons and Dragons novel I ever purchased and read. Then we have the Jungles of Cholt here. This looks like it could be Crypt of the Shadow King. This is from the first edition module, Dreams of the Red Wizards, which is not a module, a source book, I should say. This is a source book that details the lands of Thay. And it's really comprehensive and it's really great, but it was for first edition. Still usable now. I'm actually going to read and review it because I got it from Drive Through RPG. That's a beholder right there. Then we have Darkhold, a Zentarum fortress. This is supposed to be Drizzt Do'Urden and Artemis Entreri. I've seen better pictures of them. The Blood Warriors are from Darkwalker on Moonshae. This is the original cover of the book. This is the cover of the novel Shadows of Doom. This is Elminster of Shadowdale. Really great book there as well. This is the cover of the novel Masquerades. This is Elias of Westgate, who is the main character in the Finder's Stone trilogy. This comes from the novel Soldiers of Ice, which is a Harper's novel. I believe Soldiers of Ice was book 6, although I may be wrong. This was the cover for the boxed set Menzoberranzan, which dealt with the city of Menzoberranzan, which is the hub for the Drow culture. I loved this box set, and it was just a really fantastic read. What is this one? Not too sure, but it looks freaking cool. And strangely enough, this is the cover of the box set Dragon Mountain. But it looks freaking awesome. So Dragon Mountain was a set where it allowed the players to play campaigns as dragons. So your player character was in fact a dragon, which I never got. I always wanted to, but I never got it. But I've ordered it from Drive Through RPG, so cannot wait to see exactly what is going on with that. We have the Shadowvari there from Crypt of the Shadow King. The Molagrim, the Shadow Masters. Now, what's interesting about them is they first appear in the novel Spellfire, which was Ed Greenwood's first novel. Read and reviewed it on the channel. You can go and check that out. But they are not the main villains in that book. They just appear as like a throwaway villain in a chapter somewhere that Elminster confronts. But they are actually really quite interesting characters and creatures, so I thought that was pretty cool for their inclusion. Tyranthraxis. Okay. Tyranthraxis, if you've never read a Forgotten Realms novel, but you've played the video games, you will know that Tyranthraxis is the main villain in Pool of Radiance, the very first SSI D&D video game, and the main villain in Curse of the Azure Bonds. Having the stats here is just freaking awesome. Pool of Radiance, Curse of the Azure Bonds, accessories. Vrisa, the Yoklol from that Lolth, the Spider Queen's kind of handmaidens. That's what they look like. And now we have the evil organizations. Cult of the Dragon. The Drow of Menzoberranzan. Knights of the Shield. Really cool. These are kind of knights that follow a demigod that's trapped inside of a shield. I believe they appear in the first Baldur's Gate video game. The Kraken Society. Mage Lords of Atlanta. The Night Parade, which is the title of the novel that this cover comes from. This cover is from the Night Parade, so you get their organization there. And kind of how to roll up all of the different monsters. Red Wizards of Thay, of course. The Xanthar Thieves Guild from Waterdeep. The Zentarum. And then you get your magical items and spells. You got a ton of magical items and what they do. I'm not going to go through all of them. Wand of Whips, Wand of Fangs, and then special wizard spells. And you get an absolute ton of those as well with all of the second edition information. So the symbols, Sinatwama, it's an alteration, level 7 to cast it, touch. V and S, verbal and somatic. Verbal components, which means you have to speak. Somatic, you have to move your hands. There's also M for material. Duration 1 round, casting time 7. Area of effect, the caster, saving throw none, and then it gives you what it does. So that was second edition spellcasting in all of its absolute glory. And you can see you just get so many spells. We get wizard spells. We get priest spells as well for the clerics in the party. And then we get the end and the sources and whatnot. So that is... Whoops. Wow, that was weird. So that is Villain's Lorebook for second edition Dungeons & Dragons. Absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend it if you want to incorporate some of the villains from the novels that you read growing up. If you haven't read the Dungeons & Dragons novels, I highly recommend them. They are an absolute blast to read. Okay, we're going to leave it there. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell all of your friends, of course. But most importantly, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Roll some fucking dice, people.